In a story that'll surprise no one, Japan got some really good exclusive games back in the 90s, and some of these became cult hits online. I could end the video here, but nah. In the latter days of the Super Famicom, audiences were graced with a point-and-click survival horror adventure game that was frankly a really early game in the genre and a key part of its history and growth, even if English-speaking players wouldn't know of it for a few years' time. 1995's Clock Tower is a beautiful game that pushes the system to its limits and was near perfect in its specific goals and the execution of them. But 2 years later, it saw itself re-released for PC and the Sony PlayStation, with a slew of very minor changes, including the art of the game being improved a little, but losing a little of its majesty as well, since it's no longer a stunning game for its system, it's just another game for a system. But the journey didn't end here, because this enhanced version was again remade 2 years later, in 1999 for Bandai's wonderful hidden gem machine, the WonderSwan, a small brick originally displaying a kind of greenish monochromatic screen that got improvements like a color model that also made the older games be black and white instead of greenish grey and greenish grey. This seems very familiar since this is like the Game Boy, and the reason for that is both of these were developed by the legendary Gunpei Yokoi. His career is unparalleled for the tragically short tenure it had, and the WonderSwan was the last system he worked on before his untimely passing. I bring this up because it's still not a widely known thing in the West, and this was a Game Boy Color competitor since it hit the market in 1999, and it was very much the Game Boy again, with all its pros and cons. This included things like very limited graphics on a screen that's hard to see, but it also lasts forever on a single AA battery. The WonderSwan is such a cool device, and I have to thank a supporter of mine, and I'd say friend, named Animal for donating this. Thank you so much. I've always wanted a WonderSwan, and I'm so glad I have one now. To get back to the game, here we have a remake of a game remade again, but this time for a super limited system that can frankly barely run it. I love it, it's an anomaly and it's so fascinating. Also, for the sake of you listening, if my description encourages you to give this game a go, I would recommend either of the two color home console releases before you look at this version. This is just kind of my loophole to talk about Clock Tower, and frankly, this weird version is so cool that I just have to cover it specifically. But I am saying this as someone who has played the Super Famicom version a lot. Though for some scenes I will alternate footage of this game, just so you can see how beautiful this game can truly look when it's not crushed all the way down. I'll put a logo accompanying it so you know if it's Super Famicom or PlayStation, which do look slightly different. Look, for making this video I 100%ed it again on Super Famicom, and got a bunch of different endings on PlayStation. Let me do this, I 100%ed it again on WonderSwan, and for all three systems I got both slightly different versions of the S rank. I played this game a lot, let me use some of my B-roll. Anyway, the game opens up with an iconic main menu that has been burned into my brain permanently, and we get this fantastic feature on all the versions. We can start the game up proper with an introductory narrative with beautiful art accompanying it, and then we get this little opening area with some dialogue to set the scene. Or we can skip it and go straight to the game part of the game where you do stuff. Ultimately, this only saves a couple of minutes, but this is a game that's meant to be replayed over and over. This option is frankly a godsend, and more games need a feature like this that let you get straight into the action, rather than waste a few seconds of your life. And just for the sake of completion, the PlayStation version added a 90s as hell pre-rendered video, and in what will surprise no one, this wasn't carried over the WonderSwan. Also, this neglected version of the game is the only version that has no English translations as of yet. But this is the kind of game that is incredibly easy to brute force if you can't read it properly. Clock Tower has very little dialogue, and most of what's there is conveyed expertly through the visuals itself. as well as for sound design, or what little is left of it on WonderSwan. The story front-loads itself in this opening, but after this, the rest of it becomes more hidden details that you could easily miss. But here in this opening minute, it's inescapable. We play as Jennifer Simpson, a teenage orphan who lives somewhere in Europe, who is being adopted with her other orphan friends by a rich person who lives in a secluded mansion. So far so good, but upon getting to the mansion, the lights just go off, and then everyone is separated. Good luck! That's the whole immediate story. It's seemingly nothing but a vessel for this setting. But like I said, there is more hidden under the surface, especially if you combine this with its sequels. In fact, to skip way ahead, as the PlayStation version and the WonderSwan version were made after the original game and its sequel, the ending here was slightly changed to fit in more with the second Clock Tower game. And I'll be honest, I kinda prefer the original version in this regard, as it makes it more of a self-contained story, but as it was already a series by the time the remakes came around, I totally get the idea to better explain and foreshadow things. Anyway, back at the beginning, this mansion is our oyster to explore. Try to find your friends and escape, though that is easier said than done. I adore the opening moments here, because you're technically given 3 different ways to go, though they are all to the left of where you start since the right is locked off, and the second floor breaks if you attempt to go there. Most first-time players will just explore every room, which consists of finding a bedroom and its adjoining slightly creepy TV room. It's slightly creepy because of things like the TV turning itself on and off, or that painting becoming messed up. But then after these 2 rooms, it's onto the bathroom. Go in here, and you're immediately greeted by whatever this is. As you can see on the console versions, this is your friend, who is obviously dead, hanging in a bathtub, and then a little guy with scissors comes out and tries to kill you. Doesn't look quite as good on the WonderSwan, unfortunately. If you didn't go this way, you could have seen another friend fall through the ceiling with Scissor Man impaling her. Or you could go a different route and see your friend drowning with Scissor Man in pursuit too. But you can technically not see any of those and just leave in a car straight away with no visible friend deaths. I don't even know if that was intentional, and I wasn't able to recreate it on WonderSwan specifically, but that is kind of funny to me. But the point is, you will almost certainly start the game exploring a small area, and then be immediately chased by a man with giant scissors who just killed your friend. Now it's time to hide. This is a survival horror game, but not the kind with weapons. It's the kind where you run and hide under beds, or behind large objects, and you hope you survive that encounter. Here it feels a bit scripted and artificial. Better implementations of these concepts would come years later, but this was 1995 and I will cut it a lot of slack. It works here expertly considering everything, and on a first time playthrough, this all feels organic. This is a point and click adventure game, and you can use your items on Scissor Man to dispel him, but I wouldn't recommend it, just hide like the baby you are. If he catches up to you, mash the buttons like your life depends on it, because Jennifer sure does. If you succeed, which is largely dependent on your health, more on that in a moment, Jennifer will just push over this little man and run past him. I love it, no notes. For all this does is bypass him for a couple seconds. He won't stop his hunt for you until you hide properly. And this is just a way to stop being cornered so you can't die unfairly. The game is actually incredibly fair. Whenever you die, the main menu just lets you continue from the screen you were last on with no real repercussions. You could argue that removes the tension, but in this game, I'll take it. And on that health I alluded to, you could kind of more accurately describe it as Jennifer's psyche. In the console versions, this was beautiful pixel art, as you could see a portrait of Jennifer that showed her emotions, and just how off the deep end she is. It goes down most of the time, but it can be restored by just sitting in the light, catching your breath, and, not doing scary stuff. It takes a little too long, so I almost never use it because I'm really impatient, but this was a very novel idea, and for the most part it was done well. On the WonderSwan, Instead of that beautiful art, we get 3 little dots on the WonderSwan status bar, right with the volume and its orientation. It's an unconventional place, but it works really well. And it never intrudes on the game real estate. So even though this is boiled down to the most simplistic version it could be, I can't be mad. It tells us all we need in a really clear way. Now when the psyche is low, you're more prone to fail the mashing. And sometimes Jennifer will just fall over or have really bad luck like a floorboard breaking. It's riskier to play with low psyche, but outside the button mashing drawbacks, there's not really any major issues here. Just be careful. It's usually safe to play this game with Jennifer in a constant pit of despair. And if you're impatient like me, you'll do it all the time. The general loop of this game is to explore this mansion, get items, and be able to see more of a mansion, and then try not to die from Scissor Man. It's not super deep, but I'll praise the hell out of this game for its randomness and a multitude of endings. This is what keeps this game in my heart, and stops it being the kind of game we just play once and stop. The randomness isn't that deep, but it'll be things like a certain item may be in room A or B, or rooms might be slightly switched around in their placements, or that moving box could have Scissor Man pop out, or it could be a cute little harmless cat. We also get more important bits of randomness, like this one room could be entirely empty, or it could have the woman who adopted you in it. Or item A may not exist in your playthrough, so you have to get item B in a different room, or vice versa. You know, this is small potatoes, and in an era of every game being modified to be much more random, this is nothing. But it showed the designers wanted to keep players of this game from feeling too complacent. And the different endings here are a goal to strive for, as the main menu lists them for you at all times. Even on a fresh save, you can see the game has endings A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and H awaiting you. It's even sneakier since there's a hidden S ending awaiting. Well, technically 2 slightly different S endings, but the game doesn't actually calculate the second one, and it doesn't really matter at all unless you're a completionist weirdo like me. This game is a wet dream to the kinds of people who want short, highly replayable games. So in other words, this game is perfect for me and like 5 other people I know, but not to most people who just don't care for that and want to see a game's credits and be done with it. You need to replay this. You don't even see the titular clock tower unless you get some of the better endings. This game is baiting you to replay it. The controls of this game are something that becomes second nature after this many playthroughs. Though the WonderSwan version does have a small weakness here that the other versions didn't have. On Super Famicom and PlayStation, you could sprint in either direction by just tapping the L or R shoulder buttons. It was very convenient, I loved it, and I never did the other method. But here on our colourless, unlit device, we have to do the other method, which is double tap the side of the screen that you want to run in. You know, this is less convenient, but it's by no means a deal breaker. At least the inventory is snappy here. We use the other D-pad on top to cycle through items and it's a breeze. Other than those quirks, this is a really faithful adaptation, limited hardware aside. Now let's focus on the limited hardware. The game runs slower, looks less detailed, and the sound effects and the music have been crunched all the way down. It's fine. Remember, this game is a miracle on the WonderSwan, and speed aside, nothing is really lost here. These are all really good compromises, considering. It's just little things like that bird that won't shut up now talks a lot less on here. And on the other side of this, a positive, the game is great with headphones. Now I know you could play the original console version with headphones, but unless you're a freak, or if you were emulating it years after the fact, you probably wouldn't have appreciated that, because almost no one was playing a CRT with headphones. But here on WonderSwan, you have to appreciate all the little things, like hearing which direction Scissorman is in just based on audio. He teleports around a bit, so it's less easy to be on top of where he is than you'd think. Back onto the drawbacks, if you can call this one, the game cuts corners where it can. Like this floor is broken from the beginning, rather than seeing it break in front of you. And for most staircases in the game, you just teleport from one end to the other without the animation. Though that's not the case for all the stairs, sometimes you tediously, slowly traverse. And sometimes you can even use a rope to slowly traverse while you go down a floor. This is something most people who played the game wouldn't even be aware of because you never need to use the rope, even though everyone collects the rope instinctively. God, I love Clock Tower for all these weird inclusions. Like you can also jump from the second floor out the window and land safely in the pool. But you'll never do that because you have to do very specific things first in order to enable this mechanic. Oh, sorry, I got sidetracked talking about cool things no one besides me cares about. To return to the game itself, this is very much a point-and-click game, and while it's a genre best done with a mouse, it works incredibly well here with all its iterations that use the D-pad. In fact, the original release didn't even use the Super Famicom mouse for some reason. And it being an adventure game means the logic can sometimes be incomprehensible to normal people. That's why I'm glad the game is super generous with its continues. To me, the funniest example is one you'll see immediately. Scissorman will chase you, but if you hide under a bed, he'll find you and kill you because of a parrot in the room. So what you should have done is go to this bedroom, open the bird cage, and then once the bird starts attacking you, which can be fatal, you grab the blanket and smother him. Now, when Scissorman chases you, you can hide under the bed undetected, because the parrot won't be talking. It's awful, but I love it. This is adventure game logic at its most beautiful. This was a lost art form that we don't really see enough of anymore, because it was frankly annoying, but I love it. And in one that is more thematically appropriate, releasing another bird in this game means you get a different ending when a bird comes back and kills Scissorman. This game is perfect. Generally speaking, this is a pretty simple adventure game and it won't stress you out much, well besides the horror and the atmosphere itself. But in terms of adventure game stuff, it's really simple. The inventory is a breeze, there's no combining of items, there's no complicated dialogue or a slew of NPCs to talk to. This is just you wandering around, and then you do things like use bug spray on the bugs, or use the ham on the guy who asks for food, and never use the rope. And then there are some interactable objects you can't pocket, like this giant plank of wood, which you can touch and Jennifer will just come and grab it and put it directly across the hole that's in front of her. The real meat of this game, other than the ham, is more about exploring every room you can, running away when pursued, and you use items in the obvious areas. Once you know the general flow of the game, this morphs into routing to see everything you can and getting all the endings you can. And these range from just leaving in a car to conquering everything and leaving with a friend. And there's lots in between, although a lot of the endings kind of blur together and only differ in the last couple moments. But this is such a short game and it's fun to replay that unless you're me and forcing yourself to get every ending on multiple consoles, you'll have fun getting every ending. Probably, I don't know. I don't really know what normal people like anymore. I've been too corrupted by all this. To give more of an insight to the differences here, as stated, the WonderSwan version is specifically built on the PlayStation remake, and that had some noticeable differences from its original release. There's this weird taxidermy room that on Super Famicom had no real purpose, but here it's required for the best ending, as you get a dagger and fight a mummy. Yes, I'm serious. Well, fight is a stretch. You throw the dagger at him and he dies. And also, I just love how the mummy moves. Look at him go. This seemed to have been planned for the original release too, since the dagger is in the game files, and while you likely won't see it unless you try to, there is a close-up of the mummy's face that can be seen on Nintendo, just without the glowing eyes. In the original, this room did nothing, but now you get a reward from it, that in the original game was just placed in a different room anticlimactically. There's also another bedroom here, which serves absolutely no purpose other than it being a place you can't hide if Scissorman is after you. That might seem pointless, but on the original release, there was a single door that could not be opened, and it likely annoyed a lot of players. I know it annoyed me. So this is a compromise, and I enjoy having something rather than nothing. And from what I saw, and I'm happy to be proven wrong by someone who knows this game in more detail than I do, some of the extra close-up images that were added in the PlayStation version, like the close-up of the bird, were removed here on the handheld. And in the original version, there was something more exploitable. You could hear this girl scream, but as long as you never physically saw her dead, she wouldn't be. Here in the remakes, the scream means she'll die regardless of you actually seeing her suffer. And it doesn't really change anything besides some small animations and sprites, but one room used to have a single cursed toy trying to kill you, and now it's one of two different ones. You won't see both in the same playthrough. It just means that when you replay the game you can see something slightly different. It doesn't change anything, you still defeat it the same way, mash the buttons, but you know, a little bit of variety is appreciated for a game that you're going to replay over and over. And while I'm rattling off changes, previously the continue button would let you resume even after getting an ending. So you could, for example, drive away from the mansion, get a bad ending, then continue from the main menu and be back in that same room with the car. It just meant that you could more easily and quickly get every ending, since you didn't have to replay the first couple of minutes. Here, continuing after an ending restarts you at the very beginning. And on that note, the WonderSwan version no longer includes credits on these endings, which is either a godsend or upsetting depending on who you are. Oh yeah, I almost forgot the most important change in this game, the pause button. It now displays the word pause and oozes this black goop behind it. It's probably meant to be blood, but since it's grayscale, it can be whatever you want it to be. It can be goosebump slime, or some milk, or whatever, there's no wrong answer. But I'm not going to go into every single detail of the game and explain the full story or everything, because I want you to play this game. I know you won't, but I want you to. Just be careful, because here in WonderSwan, the cave you go in towards the end is a little bit more of a pain to make out. The first time I played on WonderSwan, I ran right past that door and I was wondering where is that door going to pop up. I didn't realize until I got to the end of a room that I'd already ran past. Believe it or not, the slower, grayscale version of the game, with worse graphics, sounds, and controls, isn't necessarily the best version of the game, even though it is the only handheld version as of right now. Well, besides the Japanese PlayStation Store having it on Vita, I guess. Despite all my biases, when I replay this game next, it'll be on one of the home console releases. But still, what we have here is an incredible conversion for the time period and hardware, and I'd highly recommend it to you other WonderSwan lovers. For you normal people, Console Clock Tower is a must-play if you're a fan of horror games, or if you're a fan of weird point-and-click adventure games on Super Nintendo. Yeah, I'm talking to you fellow Pac-Man 2 lovers. You're out there, it's not just me, is it? Clock Tower's atmosphere still holds up even after all these decades, and it's really impressive what they were able to do. Just be careful if you're getting into this series, because there are some confusing names to newcomers. The PlayStation game called Clock Tower isn't this, it's actually the sequel. The remake on PlayStation was called Clock Tower The First Fear. Also, there's another game on PlayStation called Clock Tower 2, and it isn't the sequel to this, it's a spin-off. Welcome to our hell. We've been putting up with these names for years, and now you have to suffer with us. Such is the fate of non-Japanese Clock Tower fans. Thankfully, next time I'll be covering something way less weird, and that's the game that's super weird and silly just cause. WarioWare, specifically the first game called Minigame Mania here. It's a special game that means a lot to me, and I'm not really good at quantifying or ranking games or anything, I don't know, I just like what I like. But this might be my favourite game on the Game Boy line of systems. I adore it so much, and it taught me the value of high scores in an era where that didn't really mean much. So come back here to hear me gush about a game that I got for my 10th birthday as I reminisce as an adult who will be 30 years old.